The door is open, considering hospitality in UK community music practice. The welcome is a familiar aspect of community music practices. It concerns the first moments of contact between community musicians and potential participants. It is often embraced as a gesture to open towards the other without reservation, and offers a metaphorical and literal opening of the door to participation and possibility. But what lies beyond the threshold? What are potential participants welcomed to? And who does the welcoming and why? These are questions I reflected on throughout my PhD in music making research and share within this presentation. Hospitality as a conceptualization of the community within community music has been offered by community musician Lee Higgins, whereby the welcome comes with the call and the yes. To these three components, the notion of the open door is significant. Higgins explains, community as a prefix to community music is a gesture toward an open door policy, a greeting to strangers extended in advance and without full knowledge of its consequences. New participants do not simply cross a threshold with the intention of joining a community music project. Any new welcome is always also a direct challenge to what has been currently constituted. In my PhD practice, an open door policy extended in advance and without full knowledge of its consequences led to a glockenspiel solo in a prog rock piece, children writing their own songs within an inter-school choir, composing in a car park with a drum part played on a soda can, a range of musical styles including blues, classical, folk and pop, and a variety of contributions such as spoken word, drawing and drama. Congruent with the conceptualization of community music as an act of hospitality, as community musicians say yes to the participants' call, there is implicit possibility for inclusion of diverse genres and instrumentation, since the music created and band formed are done so through responsiveness. However, through my music making with participants for PhD research, critical incidents emerged that contradicted such possibility. Let me take a moment to share some of the practice. What follows is a short montage of music making with Cable Street songwriters, an inter-school songwriting project for Key Stage 2 children from 3 participating schools in East London, UK.
Bring yourself to make yourself better. Put that message into a letter. Send it to the real world. Send it to the real world. Upgrade your soul to make yourself better. Practice and practice, nothing will matter. Send that message into a letter. Jump in the plane, ride the line. Don't get stuck into the time. Send it to the real world. Send it to the real world.
Despite my intention to support a project whereby children could create their own music, sing their own songs, and meet others that lived in their neighbourhood, there were moments when the children's disinterest was palpable. During one workshop, for example, I set a lyric writing theme of similarities and differences, framed by the questions: in what ways are people the same? In what ways are people different? Can people be both same and different? However, nearly all of the children responded to this with the words, "We all like different things," accompanied by a drop in both energy and sound in the room. This led me to consider that whilst the participant may activate the process with their call by walking through the workshop door, for much UK practice, and indeed my own, what they are walking into already contains some fixity with regards to predetermined outcomes which serve as motivations for, sources of growth, and drivers of much interventionist practice. Fixity can come in many forms, for example through the use of creative scaffolds that are restrictive or acontextual to the point that they can render participation tokenistic, or project parameters and outputs set in advance of the encounter with participants. This can lead to imparting dominant culture with potential for participation in the wrong way. The moment that this image documents could be indicative of working towards a cultural democracy to come, as I attempt to support the children to tell their story in their own particular way through writing their own songs. It could also be indicative of democratization of culture practices, as the children were required to opt into creative frameworks and practice structures rather than determine them. As I understand it, a central problem is tension between community music as aspiring to and informed by cultural democracy, while simultaneously being a practice that operates through the participant opting into pre-existing structures. Returning to the door, whilst thresholds, defined by their edges, are openings and can signal a chance of a welcome or not, doors can be open, shut, left ajar, or removed. In practice, the community musician's welcome is bounded to some extent as they plan in advance of the participants' arrival. For example, the setting of a space with instruments and a circle of chairs, posters displayed in a corridor inviting those interested to join a songwriting club, or a community centre opening its doors for a weekly jam session. Returning to Higgins, openness is necessary but not sufficient, because hospitality requires a welcome that is set forth in order to make those it is directed at feel part of the context they are working in. However, this requirement seems incongruent with the cyclical structure of the call and the welcome. It is the participant's call that ignites the community musician's welcome. Yet as facilitators and organisations work to open spaces for inclusive and diverse music making, they are required to make informed guesses about would-be participants in advance of meeting them. This can be further complicated as community musicians operate within the conflicting fields of institutional goals, defined roles, personal desires, and interpersonal relationships. This video is offered in collaborative dialogue with Lee Higgins' work. It is in this sense a yes and. Yes, hospitality is a useful conceptualization of the community in community music. Yes, confronting the complexities of hospitality in practice can enrich the work. And how can a community of community musicians go about that? What can be learnt from the operationalization of the concept? And in contemporary practices, what is the scope of assuming a path of action with the other rather than in advance of the encounter?